Hello, and welcome back to Medieval History. Today, we're journeying to 13th century southern France, a region known as the Languedoc, to explore a religious movement so radical it was deemed the ultimate threat to the Catholic Church. This is the story of Catharism, a Christian dualist movement often called the Albigensian Heresy, and the devastating Crusade launched to wipe it from the earth. Catharism emerged in the 11th century, but by the 1200s it had gained a massive following, particularly around the city of Albi, hence Albigensians. The core of Cathar belief was dualism, the idea that the universe is governed by two opposing forces. They believed in a good God and an evil God. The good God was the creator of all things spiritual, invisible, and perfect: heaven, souls, and pure light. The evil God, whom they often identified as the God of the Old Testament, was the creator of the material world: flesh, money, power, and war. To the Cathars, the physical world was fundamentally corrupt and evil, and the human soul was trapped within it. This belief system led to a dramatically different lifestyle than traditional Catholicism. Since the body was evil, Cathars rejected the physical sacraments of the Church. They rejected the idea of Christ's physical resurrection, seeing him only as a spirit. They rejected the Trinity, the cross, and the entire hierarchy of the Catholic Church, which they saw as hopelessly corrupt and materialistic. The Cathar community was divided into two distinct groups. First, there were the Perfecti, the parfaits or perfect ones. These were the spiritual elite, men and women who dedicated their lives to extreme asceticism. The Perfecti abstained from all sex, rejected meat, wine, and animal products, lived a life of poverty, and traveled widely to preach. They represented the highest spiritual ideal of the faith. They were identified by their simple, often dark robes and their distinctive blessing, the melioramentum or veneration. Second, there were the vast majority, the credentes, the believers. These were ordinary working people who were sympathetic to the faith and supported the Perfecti, but who lived a relatively normal life, marrying and raising families. Their goal was to receive the consolamentum, a spiritual baptism by the laying on of hands just before death, which was the only required sacrament for salvation. This system allowed the movement to flourish, as it offered a path to salvation that was less restrictive than the Catholic Church's constant penance. The Cathar rejection of church authority, combined with the immense wealth and political power of the regional lords who protected them, like the Counts of Toulouse, became intolerable to the papacy. The Church could not allow a heretical movement to gain such power in the heart of Europe. In 1208, Pope Innocent III launched the Albigensian Crusade after his papal legate, Pierre de Castelnau, was murdered by an unknown assailant, an act the Pope blamed on the Cathar supporters. This was a true, religiously sanctioned military campaign, led by northern French barons eager to seize the rich lands of the south. The most notorious moment occurred during the siege of Béziers in 1209. When the Crusaders asked the papal legate how to distinguish Catholic citizens from the heretics, the abbot Arnold Amalric allegedly gave the chilling command, "Kill them all. God will know his own." Thousands were slaughtered in a brutal opening salvo. The crusade lasted for decades, transforming southern France into a brutal war zone and destroying the once vibrant culture of the Languedoc. While the Crusades succeeded in seizing the land and political power of the southern lords, they failed to completely eradicate the faith itself. The remaining Cathars were driven to remote, fortified strongholds in the Pyrenees. The most famous was the fortress of Montségur. After a brutal year-long siege, Montségur fell in 1244. Over 200 Cathar Perfecti who refused to recant their faith were burned alive at the base of the mountain. This marked the end of the Cathar military resistance. The final phase of suppression was handled not by crusaders, but by the Papal Inquisition, established largely to root out the remaining hidden Cathar believers. Through torture, surveillance, and relentless questioning, the Inquisition finally succeeded. By the mid-14th century, Catharism was effectively extinct, its memory reduced to ruins and historical records of persecution. The tragic end of the Cathars demonstrates the absolute intolerance of the medieval church toward movements that challenged its core authority and doctrine. It remains a sobering example of religious fervor driving devastating political and military action. If you were gripped by this forgotten history, please hit that like button and subscribe to Medieval History for more stories from the dark corners of the past. Thanks for watching.